Today, we're talking about red flags, what to look for if you're considering a skilled facility for an aging loved one, if they're already in a skilled facility, even, I would say, assisted living or home health. If they're in their home, but you have brought in people from the outside to help them, still some things you want to keep an eye on. It's crucial to monitor. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. If you are a caregiver for a loved one, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Are you a caregiver? Do they live with you? Are they in a facility? Where are they? If you don't mind sharing. My parents both had situations at different times, but they both lived with me until that was just not something we could do any longer. And then once they went into a facility, I have said this before, I felt like it was harder, not just on them, but on me as well, trying to make sure everything was in order. And that was with me going every day. And things still didn't happen like they were supposed to with both of my parents. So just remember, whatever you can do for your aging loved one, wherever they are, and it honestly is you're doing all you can do, then you have to feel good about that and do not get into the beat yourself up, the guilt. Did I do enough? Those kinds of things. If we can make sure that they're safe, they're fed, they get their medicine, they're treated like a human. I mean, just pretty basic stuff, right? Why would I even have to say that out loud? Well, probably because both of my parents at different times of their journey in a skilled facility were not treated humanely, in my view, in my opinion. So let's talk about what are some of those red flags. Number one, I'm going to glance at my notes. They're on my phone, so just have to overlook me on that one. But some physical things that you need to look for, physical signs, okay? Unexplained injuries. Do they have bruises on the top of their hands? Do you notice maybe they have a red spot on a heel or their bottom or something? If they have something like that that's not being shared with you, hey, your mom bumped her hand on the bed railing, now it's a bruise, that's a problem. You need to know about all the things that are going on. Whether you go every day or you go once a week, or maybe you live out of state and you call every day or every other day, they are supposed to be taking care of your loved one. They are being paid to take care of them, and they know what they signed up for. That's what gets me frustrated. And yet, some of these people should never work with the most vulnerable populations, kids or aging people, in my view. So look for, like bed sores I mentioned, bruises, those kinds of things. Those could be a red flag. There's a problem. And the thing is, you have to take them at their word that, hey, mom hit her hand or dad, bumped his hand or whatever. If you're not there, you don't see it. You have to just kind of take their word for it and hope they're telling the truth. And it is what it is. Another thing, if they experience sudden weight loss, my mom did experience weight loss. She died in 2020, so you can just let your brain go there. And even though I could see her a few times a week through the window visits that they let us do, I did still go every day, taking treats, picking up her laundry, taking her clean laundry, calling every day, trying to do the video, which, older people a lot of times don't get that. They don't understand that. She did lose copious amounts of weight. I won't get into how much she lost, but it was a lot. And nobody said, hey, Pam, your mom's, and I knew she was losing weight, but I had no idea in the throes of what was going on, how much she was losing. So keep an eye out for that weight loss. And for me, they were like, well, she just didn't want to eat. She didn't want to eat. But every time I went during those silly window visits, which I was very grateful for at the time, she would eat whatever I would take her, a hamburger, french fries, ice cream. Eat it all. Her little Debbie treats that she loved, she would eat it every time. So I know it wasn't that she wasn't eating because she just didn't want to eat. I feel like there's some underlying issues. I mean, I've worked in skilled facilities in the past. I'm a speech language pathologist. First 23 years was with adults, so I did acute care, rehab hospital, home health, and I did a little bit of skilled care. And I've seen some stuff, not just with my folks, but working in those places. And, put the tray down, they're sleeping in their chair. An hour later, they're still sleeping, the food's still there, and they just take the tray. Okay. Again, red flags. So if your family member is losing weight, my dog, he's snoring. Can you hear him? You need to look into that and have a care plan meeting. It's your right to have monthly care plan meetings, and if they don't reach out to you, you can reach out to them. They have it's law. They have to do it. Poor hygiene is another one. If you go, and I get it, people with dementia sometimes, maybe they're a little mismatched or whatnot, but they should be clean, nothing under their nails. Their hair shouldn't look crazy. They should not be dirty. And they really shouldn't be matched either. But if they're clean, that's the main thing. Because if they stink, or if their clothes smell like they've been soiled and not taken care of, that's a sign of neglect. It's unfortunate that these things happen in a facility that's supposed to be called skilled care, like they care. Unfortunately, the ones that do care end up quitting because they have to do all the work, because they actually do care. So they're running around like wild animals trying to take care of all these people. And then you have that other group that are just lazy, and you know who I'm talking about. People that should not deal with old people, okay? So frequent infections. If your loved one seems to always have a recurrent UTI, urinary tract infection, that could be a sign of an issue. Maybe they're not being clean again, whatever. If they have respiratory infections, just different things that you need to keep an eye on that are red flags that could indicate they're not being taken care of. Now, the flip side to all of this is if they're clean and they're happy and they're always glad to see you and there's no signs of emotional distress when you leave, they know you're going to come back, then the odds are they're probably being very well taken care of, and I know that does happen too. Unfortunately, my parents and I were just on the end of not being taken care of. And so I get a little jazzed about it because I think it's so terrible. Being a therapist, I mentioned when I worked with the older population, which I love the older people to work with, I treated them like they were family. And I don't mean that in a non-professional way of crossing any boundaries, but I would think to myself, now, if this was my granny or my mom or my dad, I would want them to really be taken care of. So I would just, over the top, make sure they're okay. When I would leave them in the room, do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need your call light? You want to watch TV? Are you hungry? All the things, just to make sure they were okay when I left them. And you just think that turnabout's fair play and your family would be taken care of. And I can tell you a couple of the places I had worked, and it doesn't matter who sometimes people don't take care of the people they're in charge of, unfortunately. They'd rather be behind the desk on their phones posting about football games or something ridiculous when Blow Joe's down there ringing that call light like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And it's just reality. I'm not trying to be on here hating, but it is reality. Our system to take care of the aging population, in my view, for the most part, is pretty pathetic. And I don't see how it's ever going to be better, because I know the pay that the people that, do the jobs that nobody wants to do. Let's just be honest. Cleaning up after people. And again, you're signing up for that and you're not getting paid much. And I guess maybe that's why they're lazy and they don't want to do it. It's because they think, well, I don't get paid enough to do that. I'll just do it once, and then they could sit there for a while. But see, what happens is when Granny sits there for 3 hours in her pee-pee, then she can begin, that's acidic, and then her tushy can begin to break down, and she could end up with her hot spot, that could lead to a bed sore of some sort. So skin integrity is a big deal for the aging population. And if if it's in shambles today in 2024, and in my view, it's in shambles, especially the skilled care facilities as a whole. Are there some good ones? Probably. But I think there's more that struggle to be up to standards than those that are up to standards, if that makes sense. The standard's pretty low, unfortunately. So just be mindful. You know, you can choose a place that you think looks good, everybody sounds really nice, they seem, educated in their areas, it's clean, it smells good, and it can still be an awful place. So you just have to do your due diligence, and also just be aware of these red flags. You have to show up, and even if you live out of state, maybe figure out somehow you pay someone to come in once or twice a week, different times. Again, I came at all time, especially with my mom. Well, I did it with daddy too, but in and out, didn't know what time, every weekend. That woman, we went out all the time until we couldn't, you know what I mean? And they looked for me to come. And I've mentioned it before. Here's Nurse Pam. It might be 10 o'clock in the morning. She still hasn't had her morning meds. They just waited on me. Very wrong. Not good. So you just have to be alert and pay attention to things, and then just make decisions as you go. Do you move them somewhere else and start over? Do you just completely confuse them again? I mean, that was what I battled with. Like, well, I could move her, but where will we go that's any different? We have a relationship here, let's try to make this work. You just do the best you can. Let me know out there, again, if you are a caregiver, drop it in the comments, because I love people that, I'm here for you. It's a tough journey. Nobody wants to parent their parents. Like I mentioned, my mom and dad lived with me, both of them at different times, until, I still work, especially when my dad was sick. I was just in my 30s. So I had to work. And then I still work, part-time, when mom had her issue. So you just have to do the best as you can and try to protect your own mental health, because if you don't, then if you can't take care of you, you surely cannot keep an eye on them. And so let me know in the comments, if you're a caregiver, what do you do for your mental health? Like, what do you do to kind of unplug, if you will, and kind of recharge? I can tell you, I didn't do anything. I was obsessed with making sure they were okay. And that's why I always say I was so much happier when they lived with me, even though that's hard and that's stressful. Not nearly as hard as them being somewhere else. And I can't see them when they're at night in bed. Do you know what I mean? Even if I stay till 9 o'clock, there's still that 9 o'clock till 7 the next morning before I could swing by before work, that who knows what goes on. I mean, it's just, you just trust people, and it's just sketchy at a lot of places. So just beware of some of these flags that we're talking about. And my apologies if you think I'm going on a tear, but it is a little bit triggering when I think about it. So I'm trying to not get mad, but sometimes I still get a little irritated. You want to look out for another red flag is emotional and psychological red flags. So are they withdrawn? Do they seem depressed? Are they anxious? Maybe they were happy-go-lucky and now they're just angry and seemingly mean. Are they fearful? Is everybody going to harm me? And maybe, you have to figure out, right? Do they have dementia, and is that part of it? Or is someone being a little sketchy with them and they feel fearful? It's hard. It's hard to balance that, right? I remember now my mom did have dementia. And like I said, I always would come on the weekends, and we'd be gone all day, 7, 8 hours, drive, ride all over, go eat lunch, get her an ice cream, all the things. And we wouldn't leave until she had her medicine. And I just remember this one nurse, and twice this happened. Mom's back's facing the door, and I'm sitting next to my mom, and she knew the woman's voice. And, she comes in all sing-songy, because I'm there. I do believe they act differently when we're there, obviously, than when we're not. They shouldn't, I'm the same 24/7. They should be the same 24/7, but that's not the case. And I don't even remember what she said. Something about, Miss so and so, in that sing songy, kind of almost condescending tone, which, by the way, I never spoke to any of my patients like that. I don't care if they don't seemingly know what in the world's going on. They're still a human being that needs to be spoken to with respect. They're still your elder, even though they may not know what day it is or where they are. You need to respect those people. I just can't get over the things that I've seen and heard. But when the woman said whatever she said, Mama looked at me and rolled her eyes, like, you know. And I thought, oh, she's done something to Mama. And I don't mean physical, but, probably been a little smart aleck with her or something. But Mama did not like her. I'm like, okay, Mama, I get you. I pick up what you're throwing down, woman. And I just think you have to watch all those cues. This lady was on day shift, so, I didn't really think too much of it because I'd take Mom out most days for some period, and I was always there, so, I didn't think too much of her. It's the night people that worry me the most, because then you're just like, what is happening? So watch out for those things. If your loved one suddenly doesn't seem to want to communicate, they avoid talking about how they're being cared for. That could be another red flag. Let's see, what's the next one? Well, I mentioned this one, missing medications. I just think about all the times that I went in on a weekend and that particular nurse would say, here's Nurse Pam, and give me Mama's medicine. During the time we weren't allowed in, how much medication did she get? Probably not a lot. I'm here to guess. My opinion. You need to notice again, their linen soiled, or, just those basic needs. Are they hydrated? I knew a lady during this time, and I could talk about this because I don't even know her name. So, but her husband was in there, and he had a disability where he'd shake and had the tremors. And he would let her know. He would drop his water and couldn't get anyone to help him. He'd ring the call light and lay there, for 2 or 3 hours waiting for someone to come in and help. And I get it that these places are understaffed, but again, it's not your mom's fault. It's not your dad's fault. That is the facility's fault. If you can't pay them enough, I don't know what to tell you. Pay them more, do more educating. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, honestly. I really don't. And if you look at how many baby boomers, I believe what I read the other day, it said by 2030, all of the baby boomers, 70 million, to the tune of 70 million, will be 65 and older. Now think about that on an already fragile, if not completely broken, in my view, healthcare system, skilled nursing facilities, all the things. And you bring all that in on top of it, I don't know. We're in deep trouble, in my opinion. Let's see. Staffing, I just mentioned staffing issues. If you come in and you're asking around, well, how many helpers, CNAs, whatever they call them, are there to a patient? Is it one lady to a whole hall? Does she have 14 people? Is it 3 people and they each have 7? What is the number? What's the ratio? I can tell you where my mom lived. Per the reports, they were severely understaffed. And I did not know that, until it's too late for Mama. Let's see. I mentioned, is it clean? Does it smell good? Do they just take care of the place? That can be a good sign if it is clean. If it stinks and is in disrepair, turn the other way. There was a place where I moved from back home. It was the nastiest facility in town. I mean, literally could smell it across the street. I'm being sarcastic, but it was the worst. And I just would think, how could anyone live there? How could anyone put someone in there when it smelled that bad? Just reeked of urine. That is a huge red flag that those people are not being taken care of. I can tell you, I worked at the rehab hospital for years, a little over 11 years. And, lots of head injuries and CVA patients and elderly. So you'd have people that would have trouble with incontinence. That place never smelled. It never smelled. Boy, he is going to town on the snoring down there. So, oh, sorry about the blinds, guys. I just realized it. But we're going to continue because we're 20 minutes in. Okay? We're going to continue. The places can keep it clean, is what I'm saying. That is a sign, in my view, if it smells like urine, they're not changing the linens like they should when someone's wet, and they're not changing the people. They're just letting them go around in pee-pee pants, which is terrible. But you want to walk around in pee-pee pants? I don't think so. I think that's awful. And it's not just skilled facilities. I hate to say it's different. When I fell off of a ladder and broke my ankle, had surgery. This little gal comes waltzing in. I had a couple of my friends. My friends are therapists. So my friend Donna and Michelle, they were there. I'm just out of surgery, and the guy told me that the orthopedist said, "I'll try to save your foot." So first thing I do is I look to see if I have a foot. You're wackadoodle. You've been under. I think it took them, I don't know, 6.5 hours to do my surgery. This little gal comes in, slinking in. She looked like she's 20 years old, maybe. And she said, "You'll make me very happy if you don't ever ring that light." What are you talking about? She didn't say that once. She said it twice. And I was just flabbergasted, drugged out of my mind at that point, but I knew she was wackadoodle, okay? So I'm sorry, but if you don't care about people, please stay out of healthcare. Don't go to skilled facilities or to acute care or the rehab if you don't care about people. I'm for real. Don't do it. You do not need to be there. And one day you'll be old, or your family will be old, and then someone will be taking care of them, and you will be hoping that they do the right thing by them. And I hope they do. I hope they do the right thing by your family. So those are just some of the red flags, guys. Just keep an eye on those things. And, those places suck your money. So if there's withdrawals coming out, just make sure there aren't unnecessary withdrawals. That could be another sign there's some sketchy stuff going on. And, just kind of be aware. Just go in and have your eyes and ears open, and check your person over from head to toe. Doesn't mean you live and, you're always anxious and suspicious, but it does mean, you have to be aware. You have to be aware that there are people in places with vulnerable people that should never be there. And the reason they're allowed to be there is because they can't hire enough people. So they just hire anybody that walks in off the street. Unfortunate, but it's the truth. So if you are a caregiver and you're on a journey of caregiving, check us out. I'm going to put a link to it. I started Generational Guardians Community. I wanted to have a place where we could come together and support one another, ask questions, answer questions, bring people in, and do educational type things, and bring PTs and OTs of speech in and different people in so you can ask questions of them. I just think that would be a good service to provide to people. So check it out. I'll put in the link, see if it's something you might be interested in. And just remember, try and enjoy the journey, and we'll see you in the next one.